Thank you very much, Joseph, for very kind words. Well, it's my delight to be here, and I would very much like to thank the organisers for inviting me. Very much to be part of a session that is dear to my heart, looking at national development goals. Why is it dear to my heart? Because we used to come to conferences like this and talk about only technology. And very much it's now about how we are embedded within, and the work we do is embedded within what our nations are able to actually achieve. And that's incredibly important. And I was delighted when I heard Mrs. Struveling talking this morning, well, it was nearly this morning, it was at 1 o'clock, but suggesting that we, as a collective group, must get more involved with the audit process. And certainly in the United Kingdom, my own organisation gets involved in counter-fraud, gets involved in understanding assets, understanding developments, and understanding financial systems. Because, as we all know, place has and location adds an extra dynamism to what people can get out of the data. And when I was thinking about this session, I started to think about what was so important for the UK. We don't publish as such our development goals. Obviously, we are very allied with many other countries in the way we work, but absolutely, as a person who's employed by the British government, I am absolutely clear what our data has to try and achieve for the nation. It has to try and achieve growth. Growth of the economy, growth of the SMEs, the small medium enterprises, growth of innovation. It also has to be have the ability to underpin the open data policies and the transparency agenda. Infrastructure development is vital to meet the needs of the changing population, the changing needs of how many house units are required, and also the needs of the construction industry. And rather like Dr. Lee talked about in his presentation, science and technology, absolutely what we do in this room absolutely is recognized within, I know, both Dr. Lee's country and my own as being important within those areas. And of course, open policies. So over the next 15 minutes, I just wanted to sort of put some of that a little bit in context, if I may, very much how geospatial is doing that. There was one thing, Joseph, you said. You called us national mapping agencies. And Dr. Lee and I would both like to tell you that the world has moved on for national mapping agencies because it was decided, and Dr. Lee was part of the major movement of moving that on, that what we as organisations do, my own in Ordnance survey, our colleagues here in the Dutch Cadastre, and many others represented in this room, together with Dr. Lee from China, is provide authoritative data, and that is complemented always by other data. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But we tend to be known as national mapping authorities now, and you'll see us all using that on our slides all around the world. I was recently seeing a colleague from the Indian Ocean presenting, and he was clear about his role in the authority of data. So what I see is that we all in this room, the work we do is underpinning our countries. For my own organisation, we underpin everything from emergency services to making sure on a Friday evening, many tens of thousands of households get the household groceries delivered to their door. But even that kind of operation, delivering information, delivering goods to your door, Those organisations want more information to make them more profitable. We've recently seen major retailers interested in something I hadn't actually thought about before, but the length of the drive, i.e. the length that the person has to walk from the curb to deliver the goods. Because can the delivery person in 1 hour do 300 houses, or could they do 325, which would give greater economic benefit and profit to those organisations? So absolutely, geography is becoming key to what everybody's doing. What we know, certainly in Great Britain, is it's gone mobile. Whether you're having your phone line repaired, whether you're having your meter read, absolutely there's mapping involved on the mobile devices. And on a Saturday morning, very regrettably, sometimes my organisation sends me for the 7:30 delivery, just so I'm at home, the papers for the following week. And even I found the Royal Mail now had mapping to connect my address on their PDA from Ordnance Survey. So we're seeing it very much ubiquitous use now. We were delighted in the United Kingdom that there was a policy put in place to make sure that whether you're in the health department, the transport department, the registration departments, or obviously in those involved in geographic information, that you would start to collect and maintain your data in similar ways as a result of a government piece of policy that was put through in 2008 and has continued through in our coalition government. And it very much follows many of the aspirations we all have of collect once, use many times, but collect to global open standards. Collect the metadata, collect it once, use it many times. And that is providing economic benefit not only to those users, but also, as I discovered, to some of the collectors who in large organizations don't always realize that there's somebody else down the corridor investing in the same data set. And this policy has made a difference. One of the ways that we've been lucky enough in the United Kingdom to attract quite a lot of attention to the geographical elements was by making it rather simple. I was clearly given an instruction by a very senior politician that if I continued to talk about geospatial, I wouldn't have another meeting. So when I was cheeky enough to say, may I ask what would allow you to give me another meeting? He said, talk to me about place and location. And ever since then, we've used the words place, location, and everything happens somewhere. And those three things have made people realize that geography is a stage on which everything is happening, and together with revenue, time, and cost, to underpin economic and the work of the nation, location is important. And certainly, by independent analysis, Ordnance Survey data underpins over £100 billion of the British economy each and every year. I suspect many people in this room know about Ordnance Survey, so I won't bore you, but we, along with many other organisations in this room, were founded a very long time ago. I must thank our French colleagues. They were considering invading Great Britain, so it was decided that the south coast of Great Britain should be mapped against them. And hence our specification still reflects some of that in the fact that our specification still helps you to know what to hide behind and what to shoot from. It did take us 10 years to make that first map, and I'm glad that the French didn't come, because I think we might not have had the mapping in place. Anyway, we are completely self-funding. Basically, our last published results show that we made a profit. Our profit is continued to grow, but so has our dividend back to government. We pay 60% of our profits back to the British government, and that's our dividend policy, and is one that is very much keenly awaited by ministers. Our job is very much to create the master map on which everybody else does their work. We don't do that work for them, they do. They might be in a health authority, they might be in a retailer. But the key thing for us is making sure that data's up to date. So we now make over 10,000 changes per day to the master map of Great Britain, and we have a government mandate that 99.9, and we actually achieve it with 99.96% of real-world change is into that database within 6 months of it occurring on the ground. We always choose to work with partners. We are never going to be experts at necessarily the insurance market or certain high finance markets. We do understand the land and property market, but absolutely it's about working in partnerships, and often our data is rebadged by others in order for it to be fit for the purpose that's required. But again, we license it on a royalty basis, which then gives to the British economy about £400 million of new revenues each year. Just in case one is interested, that is what MasterMap looks like, and some of our Dutch colleagues will absolutely recognise this is your embassy. And I recognise that we're being very kindly hosted by Sanjay Kumar, who I'm not sure whether he's here today in the room, but I thought he'd like to also see India House. Oh, well done, Sanjay, yes. India House next to Bush House, which has a very famous part of the BBC, and also it backs onto the major inland revenue, the tax authorities, in case you didn't know that, Sanjay, in our country. So lots of our tax inspectors sit just there. But basically that's the detail, and we map to 1 centimetre accuracy on the ground, and we guarantee within 40 centimetres on the ground anywhere in Great Britain. MasterMap is the heart and lungs. It allows everybody to connect their information via a unique identifier and that's within the geography that ensures that absolutely everybody is able to know that they're talking about the same geography. So here's a highways database and a crime report database being able to use the same unique non-geographical number to share their information. And MasterMap doesn't just come, and many of you will know MasterMap, just as a topography layer. It also has an address layer, an integrated transport network layer, and an imagery layer. And together with the very traditional ways of collecting data, field survey, aerial survey, photogrammetry, we make those 10,000 changes into the database. And like many of you, we are also the geodetic experts for Great Britain, and I'm sure most of you will be more than familiar with this kind of diagram that shows you that what you've got on your phone when you say, oh, I know where I am, is actually or within 10 metres of where you are. But the system that Ordnance Survey uses gives us to 1 centimetre accuracy. The way we've operated that, we've built these fixed permanent stations throughout Great Britain. Many of you in national mapping authorities will have similar systems, and what that gives the surveyor is within 1/3 of a second, the correction comes back into his machine. Having gone up to the satellite, back through the fixed stations, and back through to the surveyor's equipment, operated by the industry, and we're very grateful to the support we've had from all the major suppliers in the industry who on-sell those devices with their description of that signal onto construction companies and the survey industry. And here's an example of economic gain. Economic gain out of something that is horrible. Serious and fatal car crashes. Absolutely, we've all sat in them, very frustrated, missing our meeting, how terrible for the people. But absolutely, you'll be delighted to know that geospatial is making a difference now, that certainly in the United Kingdom, the Highways Agency, who is responsible for collecting all the information at fatal and near-fatal accidents, of which there are over 5,000 a year, they now can open the roads 40 minutes quicker than ever before, using that same technology that is from Ordnance Survey OSNet. We work hard on addressing. Addressing is obviously yet another piece of key geography. We check 50,000 addresses per month. But what we've done is formed a joint venture with local government, and so that Britain has a definitive national address database. We called that company, which is 50-50 owned between ourselves and local government, GeoPlace, and it's now making sure that everybody uses the same positionally accurately addressed data. We, like many of you, have to supply our data in every way possible for every type of customer, but very much embracing what the British government is keen to do, which is to make sure that data can be sort of introductorily used by so many. We've devised a lot of ways where people can get hold of our data when they're sort of wanting to experiment with it or build businesses with it. So over a third of our assets, following the topographic mapping, address, route and terrain areas, basically over a third of our assets are now available free for not only UK citizens, but anyone in the world to develop on, build businesses on, do whatever they like. But when they want premier data, then absolutely they then license, as they license the others, but there is also a charge. But what we tend to find is that premium data is used by very professional users, like utility companies, and people who absolutely tell us by having that data as a national resource is saving tens of millions of pounds of them per year. I always think it's important that national mapping authorities don't forget their roots, and those are paper maps. And for us, the paper map does two things. It allows 4.5 million people per weekend to go out and enjoy themselves. Absolutely assisting the economy, assisting all kinds of things. I even had a rather prominent person in Britain suggest that we needed to change the pub sign on our paper maps, because actually at the moment it's a beer tankard. And of course, a lot of people with drinking and driving, we can't do that anymore. Absolutely, they don't feel it's appropriate to have a pint mug as the beer sign. It should be something that says everybody is serving food to try and get more people to eat out in these difficult times at cheaper places. So again, an economic benefit from a paper map. But obviously, it's helping people keep safe and also keep healthy. But we've made sure there are many alternatives to using the paper map. You can obtain all our assets through a portal now for $19.99 subscription per year, or you can go and get your app from us and download for £1.69 whatever you're wanting to do, and map your route and post it to other people. It's all rather exciting. One of the things that has been important for Ordnance Survey has been our very significant role we played in the 2012 Olympic Games. We were approached in 2008. I was approached by, and it was given within my job title to ensure that I provided the geospatial infrastructure for the Games. This has ended up as working as a collaboration with 42 other organizations, making sure, taking that theory that we collect it once, use it many times, that's exactly what we did. And for the first time, Ordnance Survey needed to change its specification to meet the needs of everyone. We collected over 550,000 extra features. We basically, if you come to London and you look on a street, you will see drains and water meter covers, and I can assure you we mapped every single one within the specification. And we also used OSNet in every part of the construction, and this was a 5-year project, and we then went to 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week working from the 13th of July last year till the 5th of September last year, and I think we will all be very proud of the work we did in that. Just a couple of things to show you how master maps are used. Here's an example of an asset company, a water company, and they are basically supplying their customers, and they believe they're supplying to all of those people along the blue line. It turns out they're only billing those people who are in green, leaving those in red getting free water. Very simple, but changes the economics of this company, which is in the private sector, where they were able to get additional income of over £1 million per year and cut their costs by £60,000 in their operating costs, all by good use of mapping. In Britain, should unfortunately we have flooding or an outage of water, then absolutely it's vital under legislation that water is provided to the citizen, and 10 litres of water is mandatorily provided, otherwise the citizen can claim a refund. And so what's happened is Anglian Water say they're able to save over 90% of their costs by using good geospatial information, rather than just putting these bowsers anywhere. One thing that's been transformational was a decision made by our most recent government, our coalition government, that the public sector should underpin decisions with good, authoritative, trusted data. And so every member of the public sector, whether they be in the local municipalities, in the parish councils, which are very much citizen-driven, or in central government, they now have access to our data. And it's transformed things, not only for our private sector industry in the geospatial world, but also in the use. And there's a similar agreement in place in Scotland. What I can guarantee you is if you ever see a rubbish truck in Britain, every rubbish truck is using our data to increase efficiency and economic gain. This is an example in Daventry, where they're reducing their diesel costs by 12%, increasing their spare capacity by 14%, and eliminating overtime costs just by doing things differently. So basically what we've seen, whether it's in emergencies, here was in Carlisle, and guess where the mapping was being held, in the flooded building, or whether it's being used in fire and rescue, where perhaps they don't wish to use their own resources, but they wish organisations like Ordnance Survey to serve them the data, we're seeing it being used in lots of different ways. But one of the things the British government's very keen on is how to promote innovation. So we developed an API that anyone, whether it be your grandmother or mine, can use. And in 5 clicks, you can add it to your website, whether it might be doing your family history, or perhaps the scouts are going out on a trip this weekend. And this is all free, and the data is free, and everybody is now using this API to develop their own websites for whatever it might be. Another thing, and I'd commend you talk to Chris from Ordnance Survey, who's here today, is a fantastic program that's caught the interest of tens of thousands of people in Britain called GWF. GWF is about using exciting ideas to generate new ways that we can stimulate the economy. And all people have to do, you don't have to be a geographer, you can be anyone, have an idea for how you solve a problem. So Chris sets these ideas like, how can Britain feed itself better? How can we improve transport in Britain better? And then he puts the people who have the ideas with good developers together and kind of venture capital funders. And we also have innovation funds, some funded from Ordnance Survey, some from other people. And normally each time for supporting these innovations, we have about £150,000 to give away to help stimulate the economy and stimulate that growth that we desperately need. I've talked a little bit about open data. These are the kind of demonstration of the databases that are available for people to license free of charge. And we've worked hard to help people in the education side, working with other people in government, and with the universities. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that we bring together everybody who's working in this geospatial world to work together for the better of the development and growth that's required. So just to finish, I just wanted to go to a slightly different topic, which Dr. Lee kindly mentioned earlier. He mentioned the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management work. And Dr. Lee is the chairman of the whole of the Far East and Asia areas of this. And this absolutely put mapping geospatial into a different sort of political area, I would say, Dr. Lee. It made a huge difference because there's been a driver behind this called Paul Chung, and he has said, just like statistics, every country must have authoritative, trusted, maintained, definitive mapping data. And he was the driving force behind setting up a new official part of the UN. There are lots of unofficial parts, in order to coordinate all the activities involving all member states at the highest levels of their government. Now, why does this make a difference for any of us in this room? It means our UN ambassador in New York receives regular briefings on the importance of geospatial and how every nation should have comprehensive, authoritative, trusted, relied upon geospatial information. And this was all endorsed by the Economic and Social Council in July 2011, and many nations have now taken this forward through their authoritative parts of the UN, and it's bringing many more funds into our area. Because, as you can see on this slide, the UN GGIM team reports indirectly, of course, through to the Secretary General, but it is part of the nation building that goes on around the world, very much led by the UN. So it is about strengthening national capacity, improving global availability, and it's absolutely about making sure that these messages make a difference within countries. And some of us were lucky enough to give very prominent presentations at the Rio+20 conference, and as a direct result, we made sure in the final mandate, which countries work to for the next few years, it talks about reliable geospatial information. What we've seen is great leadership from the UN, basically what we've seen is the UN supporting this and working with the member states to get a greater understanding in our foreign offices about the importance of geospatial information within nation building. And some piece of work that I would like to commend to you, if you haven't seen it, and I have a few hard copies if anyone would like to see it, is that I led a project which I have to say was quite unusual. I crowdsourced the information from all of the community. We wrote out to 150 prominent people around the world. We also wrote to every country, and basically we said don't write more than 2,500 words on where you think things are going in your specific area in the next 5 to 10 years. Dr. Lee and I have been at the official committees that have considered this document twice, and it will be published at the next formal meeting of the UN, which is being held this summer. It is already fully available on the web, and because it's part of the UN system, it is completely copyright free, so you can do with it what you like. And many countries have already started to basically translate it. And just finally, for those of us in Europe, we've heard that Dr. Lee is the chair of the UN in the Far East, UN GGIM in the Far East area. We in Europe didn't have anything like this. So there's been a fantastic collaboration going on between Eurostat. Walter Rademacher, the head of it, has been leading it for some time. I happen to be the chair of the UN GGIM, together with Sheikh Hamid from Qatar, and there's always a co-chair, and so I'm asked to be a co-chair here in Europe at the moment on a temporary basis, and Eurogeographics and our colleagues from EEA, our colleagues from Eurostat and many other organizations through JRC throughout Europe to try and work out what we will do. And we hope to be bringing some concrete proposals as to how this will work to the General Assembly in the summer, so that this is something we ourselves can be better represented here in Europe and match our colleagues from the Far East. Thank you very much.